With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inactive.
It's Irish.
It's Irish. It is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No,
Okay.
We Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Direct from the King Spring Studios in beautiful Smyrna, Georgia. This is a bunch of malarkey. Now, here's your host, the incredible Charlie McMahon.
Thank you to Hall of Fame radio broadcaster Scott Shannon for our weekly introduction. And thanks to all of you for tuning in to yet another episode of A Bunch of Malarkey. Our 99th episode. Can you believe that? I've done this 99 times already. As we pass the midpoint of September, another week left to go before we hit October. Weather is starting to cool down a bit here in the Atlanta metro area, although we've been socked by rain over the last week. That Hurricane Sally remnants, nonstop rain. I feel like this whole year has been rain here in the Southeast and humidity and heat, and I just look back on this year and it's all a blur. It was like it was the Super Bowl and now we're almost in October. I just I can't put it into words. You know, fires raging out west, hurricanes, a ton of hurricanes in the Atlantic. I think there's 3 or 4 of them spinning out there right now after one made landfall in Mississippi, Alabama. I mean, it's just, can it stop? What was that scene from Rocky? Throw in the damn towel. Can we just throw in the towel? You know what I'm thinking, though? Now, back in March, on Friday the 13th, I believe the 13th of March is when the national emergency was declared for this pandemic. It was Friday the 13th. It was a full moon, and on that weekend, our clocks got put ahead. All in the same weekend. Now, I'm thinking next month, Halloween lands on a Saturday, that combined with a full moon that night, and the clocks go back an hour that night. Maybe that's like the factory reset that we need for 2020. Maybe it'll reverse all the bullshit that's gone on. But then again, that's only going to be a few days before Election Day, so it's going to be chaos. But start thinking about your voting now. I mean, it's mid to late September. Start coming up with a plan. Find out about early voting in your area. If you're going to mail it in, find out where you can bring it, hand deliver it if you can. Start making a plan now, because if you don't start making a plan now, it's going to be a clusterfuck. We talked about it last week on the show about this cult and all this bullshit, the misinformation the week before. Start making a plan, no matter who you're voting for. I mean, I hope you're doing the right thing, but I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. That's not what this show is all about. No matter who you vote for, get your ballot. If you're voting by mail, make sure you have a plan. If you're going in person, make sure you have a plan to not only stay safe, but avoid big crowds. Check into early voting. It's going to be a mess. Don't get caught up in the mess. Make sure your vote gets counted. Encourage your friends, your family, your coworkers, everyone to vote. Everyone needs to participate this time around. So a lot of bullshit going on in the next couple of months, so brace yourselves. Now, speaking of bullshit, every day I limit my news half an hour. I can't do it anymore because the stupidity that's running rampant out there it takes a toll on me. At first, I would laugh this stuff off. It's mentally taking a toll on me, and I think of a lot of people. You hear about this anti-mask flash mob? It ran roughshod over a Florida Target. Yep, you heard that right. In Fort Lauderdale at a Target store, a group of anti-maskers staged a flash mob celebration of Burn Your Mask Day, which according to some was this past week. I didn't know anything about Burn Your Mask Day. In footage of the spectacle staged last Tuesday night, a small crowd paraded through a Target's aisle shouting, "Take your mask off," at random shoppers, while Twisted Sisters, "We're Not Gonna Take It," played in the background. There is MAGA Gear, if you know what that is, Make America Great Again gear, in the photo, people wearing this stuff, screaming, Mixed enthusiasm from members, one of whom appears to be an elementary-aged child being dragged into this shit. "We are tired of shopping with masks on," a participant yells in another video posted on YouTube. One woman with her bandana pulled down around her neck as she films her fellow customers at close range, encourages them to breathe, because you're American and it's all a lie. By it, she presumably means the research demonstrating that masks provide an effective means of containing the respiratory droplets, or maybe she thinks the whole pandemic is a lie. Who can say with these fucking people? While I'd like to report to all of you that the anti-maskers' efforts were in vain and Target's clientele roundly booed them out of the store, it didn't happen. There was actually people who joined this parade of fucking idiots. Target said in a statement that it was aware of the group who came into the store and asked them to leave after they removed their masks and became disruptive and rude to other shoppers. Target's priority remains the health and safety of our team and our guests, and we communicate our mask requirement through signs throughout our stores, overhead announcements, and reminders from team members at the front of the store. A flash mobber named Nathan Babcock, perfect name because he is a cock, deemed the event a success and reportedly plans to do more in the future. "It's your right to do what you want," he said, "like it's my right to do what I want. If you want to wear a mask and think it makes you safer, then go right ahead. It's your right. Just don't force me to wear a mask because it's my right not to wear one." You wonder why this shit... We could be over this for months. We could be totally not talking about this shit anymore. This should have been over months ago. Could you imagine if we had the proper shutdown, the proper federal guidance, a mask mandate around the country, a proper strategy, by May this would have been over. I wouldn't say we would be totally back to normal by now. There wouldn't be little pop-up pockets of this stuff. But we wouldn't still be dealing with this shit on the scale that we're dealing with now. This country is so fucked up. It aggravates. It's why I can't watch the news. Stories like this. You idiots. There's idiots everywhere. Even in Kentucky. Where this driver of a car thought they were like Da Vinci. But Da Vinci, they were not. Police in Millersburg, Kentucky, pulled over a driver who was sporting a handmade license plate. The budding auto artist was stopped after police said they noticed a plate that didn't look right. One that had been made out of paper and magic markers. It had the state's Kentucky horse design at the top. They drew that. And the Bourbon County at the bottom, along with the license plate styled numbers and letters, and a sketch of the state between the character groupings. They really went all out. The one thing that was missing... And the officers mentioned this to the alleged drawing driver, the state's registration sticker. Police said the driver was also driving with a suspended license and he had no insurance. So you go through all that and you don't have a sticker for it anyway. That's the first thing they look for is the sticker. Fucking idiots. Idiots everywhere. We got another idiot here in Georgia. One man, he found out the hard way that crime doesn't pay. He left behind a winning lottery ticket running away from deputies. That's what happened Monday morning in Cherokee County, which isn't far from the King Springs studios, during a traffic stop on Interstate 75. To the suspect who ran on foot from our deputies at a traffic stop this morning on I-75, "You left a winning lottery ticket in your vehicle," the sheriff's office wrote on Facebook. "You can claim your ticket at 498 Chatton Drive in Canton," which is the sheriff's headquarters. "It will be here waiting for you. Congratulations, by the way." The man, well, he didn't get a chance to collect his winnings at the station. Deputies ended up finding him not far from where they originally stopped him. If you're wondering what happened to the lottery ticket, deputies say they will let him have it back, but that doesn't go for everything they found in his car. Yes, he will get his lottery ticket back, but we are keeping his methamphetamine, the sheriff's office commented in the post. So he's getting his lottery ticket back, but he's not getting his meth. Oh, it's just unbelievable. But the idiot hits just keep on coming. Let's go to North Carolina, where a man watching a movie while his Tesla was on autopilot crashed into a North Carolina deputy's vehicle. According to the State Highway Patrol, Devander Goley, he's of Raleigh, was watching a movie on his phone when the Tesla was on autopilot. A Nash County deputy and a trooper with the Highway Patrol were on the side of the road responding to a previous crash shortly after midnight when the Tesla hit the deputy's cruiser. He was watching a movie and not on the road for several minutes while his Tesla was on autopilot. Then he rammed a police cruiser. The impact of the crash pushed the deputy's cruiser into the trooper's vehicle, which knocked the deputy and trooper to the ground. Thankfully, nobody was injured, Trooper Jeff Wilson said. It was a simple lane closure, and then suddenly death was at our footsteps. It shows automation is never going to take the place of the motoring public paying attention, not texting and not being on the phone, but focusing on what you are doing. Goley was charged with a move over law violation and location of television in a vehicle violation. Sick fucks out there. I mean, it's just everywhere. I mean, do you really want to go back out? I'm wondering what percentage of my listeners here are living normal lives now. Just going out, even with or without a mask, just going out to eat. You know, do you think it's over? I'm curious. Let me know in the show notes. Because I'm not back to normal. It's driving me nuts. We're going to get into all that later on. We got a couple more bizarre, mutant-esque stories before we get to our favorite segment. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I told you about a firefighter in California who was fighting a fire, and when he went back to his truck, someone had stolen his wallet. Well, a similar situation happened in Washington State, where surveillance video shows a woman walking away with a wallet accidentally dropped by a Yakima County emergency management director named Tony Miller at a gas station. The woman walked away with his wallet after thanking Miller for his department's efforts in fighting fires in the state. Miller, he's a longtime firefighter, said he drove with his team to Thurston County to help with the Mima brush fire that burned several hundred acres and forced evacuations. Disappointed, Miller said. This community for this fire has been overwhelmingly welcome to us and thanking us. He's just surprised. Security video shows the woman talking with the firefighter as he fuels up a fire vehicle. Miller is seen on the video walking out of the gas station when his wallet falls to the ground. He said he didn't realize it until he started going down the road. He went back to the store and asked if somebody turned in a wallet, and that's when the people at the gas station said, "We can check the video." Miller said the woman thanked the firefighters for their hard work during this year's deadly wildfire season. The gas station video shows the woman then talking with the firefighter and waving goodbye as she walks away. "Thank you for being here," Miller said the woman told him. "We appreciate everything you're doing." The Thurston County Sheriff's Office said deputies have seen the woman around the area before, but are still looking for her. The firefighter Miller said he has holds on all his credit cards, but he wants them back. "I don't hold anything against the community. They've been great to us." So he's not jaded against the entire community for one mutant. Imagine that, thanking the guy for all his hard work and putting out fires to save your community and then stealing the motherfucker's wallet. How about some good news? Are you thinking about getting married? Don't do it. I mean, are you thinking about proposing? Well, maybe the Wienermobile can help. Proposal season will soon be upon us. You know, the fall and Christmas time. People love getting engaged between now and the new year. Oscar Mayer is doing something special for all those who will be mustering up the courage to pop the question to their significant other. You can now relish your upcoming special day with the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. Oscar Mayer is making its iconic Wienermobile available to all those who want to make their proposal even more memorable. Starting Wednesday, hot dog fans and lovers can request the use of the Wienermobile for their special day. According to Oscar Mayer, requests will be accepted based on the Wienermobile's availability, and those who are selected will be notified the week prior to their requested date. The best part, it's free. The company just asked that requests be made 3 to 12 months in advance. Those interested must fill out a form with the event's details and contact information. You could even have hot dogs served at your proposal. The company said the offer was inspired by one of its very own Oscar Mayer hot doggers, Zack and Cheese, who actually proposed to his girlfriend at Yellowstone last week with the help from his 27-foot hot dog on wheels. Now, I don't understand how a hot dog ties into a marriage. You got to be a wiener to get married these days. Maybe that's the reason. I don't understand how hot dogs tie in, or a Wienermobile ties into a proposal. Maybe one of you can explain it to me, but this is 2020, folks. Does anything make sense? I don't even know what to say anymore. Well, if that doesn't segue into our favorite segment, I don't know what will.
A bunch of malarkey.
Mutant of the Week.
Now here's Charlie.
Last week, it was unanimous. We haven't had a unanimous victory in a while. 100% to 0. The asinine applicant, the 22-year-old who applied for a job at a pizza place and then robbed the place, leaving his personal contact information behind on the application. He beat the disrobed driver, the 61-year-old man who drove through a Taco Bell naked, claiming all his clothes were in the washing machine. So the asinine applicant is our mutant of the week until one of these two take the crown from him. Now, where do you vote? Unfortunately, we don't have polls anymore, but you can vote in the comments, and I thank you all for doing that. Go to our Facebook page, A Bunch of Malarkey. Poll goes up on Monday, ends on Friday. Make your voices heard. Be sure to vote. Our first mutant nominee, we have to go, it's a group. It's actually a group, so we have a little group here. It's not a single mutant by him or herself. We have to go to Maryland, where 5 teenage girls were caught riding a golf cart down U.S. Route 50, and they've been charged with stealing the golf cart from an apartment complex. The incident was captured on video by Gregory Green when he encountered the girls driving in the right lane of Route 50. Green tried to get the girls to pull over, yelling to them it was dangerous. Green asked the girls to pull over. They asked if he would give them a ride. He said, yes, I'll give you a ride because you need to pull over. According to reports, the girls said they missed a Lyft ride from Bowie to Washington, D.C., and that's why they took the golf cart onto the busy highway. It's not clear whether the girls plan to make the 15-mile journey in the cart. I don't think the battery would have lasted that long. The girls, who are 15 and 16 years old, were taken into custody, and Bowie Police Chief John Neske indicated that they were charged with a felony. Even beyond the felony theft of a motor vehicle, there was certainly some poor decision-making at play. It is extremely dangerous and reckless to operate a golf cart on a road, let alone a highway such as Route 50. The cart is moving at such a slow speed that other drivers approaching it at the speed limit would not be able to see it in time and brake to avoid a collision. So let's call them the golf cart commuters out of Maryland, the girls who stole a golf cart and took it out on the highway. Our second mutant nominee, we have to go to North Carolina, where Charlotte Mecklenburg police are looking for Michael Bumpers after he was caught on tape attempting to set fire to a car outside a North Carolina convenience store because he didn't get the answer he wanted from another customer. Police say Bumpers, who they've dubbed Smokey, ventured into a Circle K store and asked a customer if they had a car jack. When the customer said no, sorry, Bumpers was seen on video pouring accelerant on the parked car outside. He turned around immediately after he set the car on fire, but neglected to notice his pant leg had caught on fire. Bumpers then manages to walk to the other end of the parking lot, and then he calmly puts out his pant leg fire and walks off. There was no altercation, Detective Adrian Johnson said of the incident. All the victim stated to the suspect was that he didn't have a car jack. It's unknown why the suspect committed the act that he did. Police are offering a cash reward of $1,000 for information leading to Bumper's arrest. So let's call him the wrong answer arsonist. He didn't get the answer he wanted, so he lit the guy's car on fire. So we have the golf cart commuters and the wrong answer arsonist. So head over to our Facebook page, A Bunch of Malarkey, and make your voices heard. Now, this week's topic, I want to talk about looking back, reminiscing, reflecting. First and foremost, there have been many songs over the years that are about reminiscing, looking back. One that immediately comes to mind, Reminiscing by the Little River Band, Glory Days by Bruce Springsteen, This Is the Time by Billy Joel, These Are the Days by 10,000 Maniacs, The Summer of '69 by Bryan Adams, 65 Love Affair by Paul Davis. So many songs about the good old days. Now, reminiscing is when you indulge in an enjoyable recollection of past events. You know, as we get older, we spend more time thinking about the past. It's only natural when there's more past to look back on. The older we get, there's more past. The tendency to reminisce in old age was for a long time seen in a very negative way, as a type of unhealthy dysfunction, or at the very least, annoying to other people. Then in 1963, a psychiatrist named Robert Butler, introduced the idea that it was not only universal and natural to reminisce, but it also could be a positive thing. The practice of spending time looking back on life participates in the evolution of such characteristics as candor, serenity, and wisdom among certain of the aged. Since then, there has been a huge growth in the study of reminiscence and its functions. Interventions like life review therapy or reminiscence therapy have been created to address the treatment of depression, dementia, trauma, and end-of-life care. Now, training is required to administer these treatments because not all reminiscing is the same. Just remembering and telling stories doesn't necessarily have any benefits, and in some cases can do harm. Quality reminiscing involves some kind of effort at evaluation and finding meaning. In the 90s, there were two psychologists named Lisa Watt and Paul Wang who developed a taxonomy, if you will, of reminiscing that has been useful in research on how people relate to their life stories. They come up with 6 types of reminiscing. That's what we're going to talk about today. What reminiscing is, the types of reminiscing, why we do it, and why we are doing it so much more during this pandemic. And then I'll tell you what I reminisce about. My wife says I live in the past. I reminisce a lot. We'll talk about it. The first kind of reminiscing is obsessive reminiscing, where you look back and say, oh, everything was awful. Obsessive reminiscence is focused on negative events from the past and feelings of guilt and bitterness. With obsessive reminiscence, there is a failure to reframe or restructure the thinking about mistakes or missed opportunities in order to incorporate them into a meaningful view of life where even the bad has played an important role. The second form of reminiscence is escapist reminiscence. It's those were the good old days. The opposite side of obsessive reminiscence is escapist reminiscence. Instead of a tendency to dwell on the negative, there is a focus on the good old days where everything was great, how wonderful it was compared to now. It's marked by boasting and exaggeration. It can serve as a coping mechanism for difficult events, but is generally unhealthy. I have to say I'm guilty of escapist reminiscence. I mean, I remember negative things about my life, but I like to remember funny, or even when it was something bad, I like to put a funny spin on something from the past and laugh about it. I reminisce a lot because I feel like, let's face it, I'm 49. I'm playing the back nine now, unless I'm going to live up to over 100. And I feel like the best days of my life are over. Not saying I'm not going to have good times from now until whenever my time comes, next week, next year, 100 years, 50 years from, I don't know. But I look back because certain things I'm never going to get to do again. I mean, let's be honest. So I'm guilty of this escapist reminiscence. There's also narrative reminiscence, where it's a series of events where obsessive and escapist types of reminiscence put a negative or positive interpretation on life events. Narrative reminiscence is neutral and straightforwardly descriptive. It relays biographical information and anecdotes, but it doesn't lead to greater understanding of self or others. So it's kind of a neutral. It's not the obsessive, where everything was negative. It's not the escapist, where everything was positive, the good old days. It's kind of just a narrative of things that have happened. The fourth kind of reminiscing is transmissive. When I was your age, transmissive reminiscence is done in the service of passing on values, lessons, or traditions, usually from older to younger generations. It's usually a kind of constructive way of looking at the past, in that it looks for meaningful things to pass along. Engaging in transmissive reminiscing can lead to improvements in feelings and of well-being. So that's the fourth kind. So which one out of those four, what type of reminiscing do you take part in? There's also the fifth version of, or kind of reminiscing, instrumental, where you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. No, I'm just kidding. You take the good, you take the bad. How could you not sing the facts of life after you say you take the good, you take the bad? Why did I write it like that? Anyway, let's start over. Instrumental, you take the good, you take the bad. In instrumental reminiscence, there is a focus on goals, on plans, on methods for overcoming problems. It doesn't downplay the fact that life can have failures, problems, tragedy, but it treats them from the viewpoint of what was done in reaction to bad events. It enhances feelings of strength and competence. Engaging in this type of reminiscing can help with challenges of aging by bringing up coping strategies that may have been helpful, that may be helpful in the present. And the sixth and final type of reminiscing is integrative, which is a worthwhile story in psychologist Erik Erikson's theory of the developmental stages of life. The final stage, starting at about 65, is characterized by the tension of integrity versus despair. While the central question when we're little, when we're really small, is it okay to be me, who I am? The central question of the final stage in life is it okay to have been me? You're reflecting on the things you've done. Now, sometimes despair comes from a sense that your life has been wasted or lived in the wrong way. Integrity is a sense of peace and wisdom that life has meaning and coherence. Whatever choices that have been made, integrative reminiscence fosters this feeling of acceptance. The type of statements made in integrative reminiscence show an ability to come to terms with the difference between reality and ideals, a willingness to acknowledge negative events and conflicts and find ways to accept them, and a view of life as a worthwhile story, not just one thing after another. In many studies of aging, the most successful outcomes are associated with instrumental and integrative reminiscence. We may not be able to go back and change what has already happened in our lives, but we can engage with our memories in a very productive way. Now, with what's going on right now, this pandemic, people are reminiscing more right now than pretty much any time in our lifetimes. This pandemic has made life weird. Lockdowns and restrictions are just some of the recent events we've had to deal with, and they've had tremendous effect on our human psyche. A few months ago, tons of people started experiencing wild and vivid coronavirus-themed dreams. As days passed, many lost their sense of time and stopped caring whether it was Saturday or Tuesday. Right now, people are looking back at their past more than ever. They're revisiting decisions they've made, relationships they lost. They're exploring things they could have done differently, regrettable mistakes, and random buried feelings and memories. Even just scrolling through old photos on your social media pages can be very tempting right now. Behavioral health specialists suspect this isn't a coincidence because of the current situation. And here's why so many people are revisiting their pasts right now while their routines and lives are changed. We've got more time on our hands right now. Well, some of us do. I don't have any time. Generally, people have more free time right now to think back on their lives. Some have been laid off or furloughed from work. And on top of that, there's not so much to do since most places are shut down. You're not going out to dinner and to social events, or the responsible people aren't anyway. Often what happens in daily life is that we take some issues that may be conflictual for us and we make a conscious awareness to suppress them, or it can be unconscious and they can be repressed. If you don't have the distractions of daily life, it could easily be pulled back in. So you can start thinking about these things when you don't have anything else to do, or your routine is broken, or the past for us can be a grounding type thing. You know, for some of us, the past can provide a sense of calm and stability that we aren't getting from our daily lives right now. There's a lot of uncertainty and instability out there, and people may resort to the past to find peace. The past is comforting. It's known. It's not the unknown. We don't know where we're headed. It's human nature to make negative assumptions when we're faced with uncertainty. And in this case of what's happening right now, people may have doubts about what the future holds. Looking at their past is a way to regain some control in a situation that's making them feel helpless. Looking back can help people understand how they once dealt with grief or uncertainty, and that they can overcome these difficulties yet again. Most people will realize that they have a great capacity for resilience, that we're going to get through this. The past is grounding. It validates our existence and gives our life meaning, especially in a time when there is so much instability. When you're grounded in your own existence, it stabilizes your thinking, your emotions, your ability to problem solve and process information. People are grieving life as they once knew it. A lot of people are experiencing loss of their jobs, their loved ones, milestones, normalcy. They're struggling to adjust to this new situation. They miss life as it was before, and we don't know if it's ever going to come back or when it's going to come back. It appears that many people who are swept up in reminiscing on their past may be stuck in a weird bargaining phase of grief, which they explore the what-ifs in their lives or the if-onlys of past decisions, of life events and choices. They're going back in their mind and wondering what life would look like had they done certain things differently. So what do you do if you're in these uncertain times, if you're stuck on or struggling with the past? Now, it's good to reminisce in certain ways. We went over the 6 different ways, and 2 of those were positive, and 4 one was neutral, and the other 3 were not so positive. But what do you do right now if you're stuck or struggling with the past? Now, some reflecting, it can be healthy, especially if it's bringing you peace and helping you learn about yourself right now. You know, taking stock in yourself is not a bad thing. But with that said, reminiscing can turn negative if you've experienced trauma or are prone to depression or anxiety. It can help if you talk about your past with your friends, since they can provide a new perspective and help you see things in a different light. It can also create a sense of solidarity where you realize other people are in the same boat as you are. When you talk to different people, it helps you realize that you're not alone with something. People need an outlet. So get on those phone chats, those Zoom calls, email or text conversations, and open up your mind and see things from a different point of view. Your friends can help you out a lot in these uncertain times. A lot of people are struggling to cope, and they want things to go back to the way they were before the pandemic. I'm sure we all know someone who is really down right now and are making negative predictions about the future and really miss the past. We have to check in on the people we care about. We may not be going back to normal anytime soon, if ever, who knows? But we can adjust with support of each other. So what do you reminisce about? I am a big reminiscer. I'm not saying I don't deal with, I do my work every day. I deal in the present of what's going on, but I find comfort in the past a lot. I'm not saying my childhood was perfect by any means. There's just as many bad memories as good memories in my life, just like anybody else. And I don't particularly just only think about the good times. I think about sad times and people that have passed, and what if this person would have lived longer, or what if I would have made this choice. I think about a lot of things. I reminisce most about like holidays growing up when my grandparents were alive and relatives that are no longer with us. I reminisce a lot about Saturday mornings growing up when my parents would be working and they would drop us off at my grandparents' house and we would spend the day there. Those fun times, watching cartoons, having bagels, and hanging out with my grandparents, watching American Bandstand after the cartoons were over, and just hanging out with them. I miss those days. I don't think I would ever want to go back to my childhood. I don't want to do it again. But you remember, I miss those times with people that you can't spend time with anymore. That's what I reminisce about. The one day a year where we didn't take vacations as a kid. Our grandparents would take us to the amusement park for the day or for a few hours. We looked forward to that every year. It was like one of the last Sundays of the summer before school started. My grandparents would come pick us up and take us to the amusement park, and we'd have so much fun on all the rides, and it was great. It was great. I think about my teenage years where me and a couple of friends, one of which is a weekly listener to the show. I'm not kissing your ass, but one of my favorite memories of my teenage years is when we'd have like sleepovers at my friend Billy's house, and we'd play music and play video games and just make crank calls and have fun. But mostly when we would pack our lunch, we'd get up in the morning, we'd pack up all our baseball equipment, pack lunch and drinks, and we would play baseball from late morning until dinner time. We would just stay at that field, and it was only like 3 or 4 of us, and we would take turns hitting, and we would play ball all day. I reminisce about things like that where it was before you had the responsibilities of working, but you were old enough to kind of understand what was going on, and just playing baseball all day, carefree. I miss those mid-'80s, 85, 86, those days where we'd hang out on Friday nights and cause trouble in the neighborhood, like nuisance kind of stuff. We weren't, burning buildings down or anything, but we would do little naughty things in the neighborhood and make prank phone calls, but listen to music, video games, hang out, laugh, tell stories. It was fun. I miss those days. I miss some of my days living in Long Beach. I took it for granted living a stone's throw from the ocean, where I would get up on Saturdays and have my breakfast and go down to the beach all day and hang out with friends, and then come back to the house, take a nap, barbecue, drink, and hang out all day. Not a care in the world. You reminisce about things like that. They're good stuff. Now, but there is an expression from a Billy Joel song that has always hit home with me since the song came out. It's from his song, Keeping the Faith. He says, the good old days weren't always good, and tomorrow ain't as bad as it seems. Now, let's break that down. The good old days weren't always good. We try to just filter out the bad stuff and remember the good stuff. But the good old days had their problems too. When I think of my days in Long Beach, for instance, or my days as a kid and all these memories of my grandparents, they were tough times too. You had problems with different things, but you're only remembering the good. So the good old days weren't always good. Tomorrow ain't as bad as it seems. Yeah, it may look bad right now, but it's not as bad as it seems. We're going to get through it. That quote has always stuck with me. From that line from that song has always stuck with me. And there's another verse from another song from the Little River Band. The title of the song is Reminiscing. It talks all about life going on from the time he's young till he's old. And one of the last verses of the song says, now as the years roll on, each time we hear our favorite song, the memories come along. Older times we're missing, spending the hours reminiscing. He's not living in the present. Yeah, you hear that favorite song from when you were younger, brings back those memories. But the older times he's missing because he's spending the hours reminiscing. He's not enjoying what's going on right now. And I need to really take a hard look at that line Because I find myself doing that. I think there's still good days ahead. I hope so. But in a lot of ways, I reminisce because I feel like, I don't know, maybe the majority of the good stuff is behind me. I don't know. Something that you have to really think about. I guess it's what you make it. But in these uncertain times, you're kind of restricted on good times. I guess you can make your own good times at home, but it's hard. It's hard without that interaction or, being able to see anybody or, I always say I hate people. For the majority I do. I hate all these mutants out there. But there's something to be said about seeing people in person compared to texting or even talking on the phone or even the video stuff. There's something totally different dynamic about seeing people in person. And I miss that. But we'll see what happens as far as where we're headed from here. I mean, like I said, hopefully this whole Friday the 13th, clocks went ahead and a full moon. And next month, it's the reverse. Full moon, Halloween, and the clock's going back. Maybe it's a reset. Maybe there's something to be said about that. So what do you reminisce about? When you think back of the past, what do you think of your teenage years, your childhood years, maybe your single years before you got married and your partying days, your college days? What do you think about when you reminisce? What do you reminisce about the most? I'd like to hear about it in the show comments. Now, I may have a big announcement next week for our 100th episode. I'm mulling it over. I don't want to give too much away because it may not even happen, but I am mulling something in my mind. So I may have a big announcement next week for our 100th episode. Can you believe that? 100 episodes next week. Started this in August of 2018. 2 years and a month later, 100 episodes. Never thought I'd get past a dozen. So where are we found? Come on, I've said it 99 times now. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Radio Public, Radio.com, Stitcher, Castbox, YouTube, Deezer, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, or on your Amazon Echo device. Want to get in touch? A Bunch of Malarkey Podshow at gmail.com. We're on Twitter at Malarkey Podshow. We're on Instagram, A Bunch of Malarkey Podcast. And of course, we are on Facebook, A Bunch of Malarkey. Want to become a patron of the show? Patreon.com/A Bunch of Malarkey. Patreon.com/A Bunch of Malarkey. Pick up my book. The holidays are coming. There's Christmas trees out in Costco, whether you like it or not, motherfucker. The holidays are coming. This book is not, even though the book was written almost 2 years ago, doesn't go out of style. Dealing with the public in these stories, they're current. Pick up the book. Go to Amazon. Punch in A Whole Lot of Shenanigans, Charlie McMahon. Pick it up for somebody for a holiday. Put it in their stocking. Give the gift of laughter this holiday season. You got to start thinking about this stuff. Like I said, September is just about over. You got October, November. We're going to be in the thick of it before you know. It's going to be interesting this year, though, with Christmas shopping and very, very, going to be very different this year. Christmas and all kinds of stuff. But then again, we're going to have a vaccine in a week, and we're all going to be cured right before Election Day, so don't worry about it. Want to listen to me on the radio, where I spend most of my time, most of my energy goes to Charlie's 80s Attic. We're on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and the Radio.net apps. I'm on air 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. weekdays, not to mention all the research and prep time I do, hours and hours and hours every day. Probably putting in 60 to 70 hours a week for that radio station. A lot of hard work, but it's a good station. We're constantly making things better on the station, adding more music. If you like reminiscing, you talk about reminiscing, going back to the 80s. If you like 80s music, reminiscing about the 80s, come visit me and keep me company in Charlie's 80s Attic. I think if you're a casual 80s music fan or a 80s music nerd where you like the stuff you haven't heard in a while, there's something for everybody over there. So come catch me over there. So, folks, if you're sitting around your house reminiscing about the glory days, they'll pass you by, glory days, in the wink of a young girl's eye, you still have to beware, because it's a shit show out there. Thank you so much for tuning in for the 99th time. We'll be back with episode 100 next week. Thanks so much. We'll catch you next week.